Kyle Adams, aka Captain Spish. She knew I helped dogs and saved their lives. That's confidence and strength in the dog world.
Teach me, oh wise one.
Because nothing learns through punishment. It learns through reward. And a lot of times I'm dealing with dogs no one else will help.
Oh my.
Every dog should have these basic skills.
Yeah, I mean, trust seems like the biggest step for any of this.
You defeat the energy. You pop that bubble of anxiety. We know you're scared. Here's what you do about your fear. That's true power in the dog world. All right. Hello, and welcome to Captain Spish Dog Behavior Podcast. I'm Captain Spish, and this is T.Tommy D.
Yep. First mate T.Tommy here as always. Nothing
Tommy
better
doing.
to do with my life.
well, you do. That's why you're going to leave here soon, because you can't be here all night.
No, that is true.
We all have lives, even if it's just feeding yourselves and working.
Yeah. Is that
Well,
really a
difficult.
life? Anyway, that's a subject for an entirely different podcast.
That's true. Is that life or is that just existence?
Yeah, we're
Well,
not
anyway.
about that.
If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe for sure. We're a small channel, as you can tell. We're just starting out and kind of getting things going.
Yep.
This is our very first video, so it's probably going to
Vid.
suck. Enjoy the suckiness. If you're here for the cringe, you're going to get plenty of that. But, you know,
Probably too
part
much
of, that's
cringe.
part of life too, or is it just existence also? Who knows?
What?
Oh, there. Oh, what the? Little delay. All right.
Yeah.
We've had nothing but technical difficulties today. So
It has been a fun day.
we were supposed to be interviewing Kimberly of Bull Terrier Freak on Facebook and YouTube, and just my laptop's too old. That's what you get when you buy a laptop in 2011 and don't replace it. I guess I can't handle the newest version of Chrome, and we couldn't do video interviews with her. So, but we're back to this.
Oh well.
Yeah, we got other things
We'll
to do.
get it there.
But we got the video working, it seems, and we should have some good audio. But anyway, this episode will be about listening to your dog. What does that really mean? Should you do that? Do dogs speak? Do
Well,
they talk?
I mean, you discussed the whole leadership aspect, being able to interpret your dog. So in a way,
Yeah, well, communication's about interpretation.
communication, interpretation.
Yeah, communication's an art form. It always will be. We always have to create a message and broadcast it, and then people have to receive it, or animals, and decode it. And in that decoding, you kind of inject a bit of yourself, because you have to.
Yeah.
Kind of have a base knowledge of yourself, and, well, what do they mean by it? Then you have to think outside of yourself. And I think that's where a lot of communication failure occurs, where you or just think about yourself and your perspective and what you would mean, but do you know that other individual well enough to actually change your decoding programming to actually understand what do they mean by it? What are their experiences? How are their personality? How is their personality influencing the way they message? The way
Yeah,
they
you're going
communicate?
into like heavy duty, like you're talking decoding and everything else. And I feel like we should be hiring a wind talker from World War II to figure out how to talk to a dog. Now, like,
Well, that's me. I'd be the wind talker, and so would other people in my profession that do it right way. So you should always listen to your dog, because they're almost never really wrong, like the way they interpret. They'll see a dog walking down the street, and to you, that's just a dog walking down the street and walking normally. But your dog sees the tail position and the micro body language and the tension and the proud actions of that dog. And your dog will see that dog has potential for being aggressive or bold. And depending on your dog's personality and the way they see themselves in the world, they could take offense. And so your dog will then react to this dog when your dog hasn't reacted to the last 3 dogs on the walk. And they all look the same to you, but your dog saw the subtle differences in that dog's conversation. And they're not wrong. That dog's probably not trustworthy. Even though to your human eye it seems totally trustworthy, it's just a dog walking. But your dog sees that kind of tension and that attitude they have. Because they read the micro body languages, the little teeny changes, micro changes in facial musculature and body musculature and rhythm of movement. I mean, dogs can be trained to actually detect Lou Gehrig's disease early. because they can see a slightest change in gaits of people walking.
All right. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty established that dogs in their own way are very communicative and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
let's take it from me, a novice who absolutely knows nothing about this. For somebody who is a rookie or a novice trying to interpret a dog's whims or communication as you would, what's like where's the starting point? Like, what's the easiest things to look for? And then, we could kind of build on it from there. Because, like I said, especially for me, I don't know jack about this. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone kind of starts with the basics of, well, the tail wag is a friendly gesture, and the way the ears position can show how much focus the dog has on what they're looking at. And to me, the dog's ears are kind of like our shoulders mixed with our eyebrows. So really high raised eyebrows and shoulders usually means very focused and intense. And if you
I mean, unless it's me, then it just looks ridiculous. But you got like the Paul Bearer look going on,
turtle,
like.
No, a lot of times if you mimic the dog's body language, that's where I really started. Of course, as a kid, when you don't care if you look like an idiot, but and now I'm paid to look like an idiot, so I just do it for my clients. But yeah, if you move in a certain way, and you really you clear your mind and you open up your emotions to interpret what your body's saying, and you move the way the dog moved, and you move your face kind of in the way the dog's face moves, your brain will start saying, well, this is giving across this impression of you're feeling this way, you're thinking about doing this certain thing, you're gonna pounce soon, so just mimic your dog's body language and think about in that context of what that dog is going through in the moment. What would I be meaning by that? And you'll get closer, and then you can experiment through interjecting with your own part of your conversation about well, don't do that. If your not your eyebrows, but your ears are raised and you're really, really focused, and the other dog is taking it, like, you listen to the other dogs too. Not just your dog, but how the other dogs take what your dog is doing. So if the ears being forward and the tail being high is fixating on this other dog, and the other dog's getting nervous and saying, hey, this makes me uncomfortable, even if your dog isn't actually intending an attack, your message to your dog is not just, well, don't attack. It's also, well, see how it's making this other dog nervous. You can make him not so nervous by changing your body language, and I'll gently push the ears down, push the tail down, and you'll see your dog's muscle tension decrease, and you'll see the other dog's tension decrease, and then your dog will decrease again. And so through changing how your dog is showing the conversation to the other dogs, it changes the whole conversation back and forth. Because it's never just one individual. It's your attitude and energy. It's the dog's attitude and energy and how they see themselves. And then it's the other dogs observing your dog and you. And then their handler, and so on and so forth. So that's what gets complicated about dog behavior and dealing with anxiety issues, fear issues, and reactivity, is that it's never any 1, 2, 3, or even 4 variables. There's always 15 or more variables. And you have to take them into account. And sometimes knowing those variables and knowing that it's too much for your dog is a big, big step, is knowing where your dog's boundaries are and listening to them. If your dog really flips out and they can no longer listen to you, because that's what it is. It's not that they don't want to listen to you anymore. They just can't. When they're in this irrational state enough that they're just in instinct. They're not thinking anymore. Right. And if you're not thinking, you can't interpret messages and think of what to do about it.
Is that like kind of like putting it into another perspective? Is that almost like kind of like a crowd mentality in a way?
That can be an example of it, but individuals can also go into this as humans. We can go into this state too, where we're having an anxiety attack and we don't know. We're not trained to understand it, so we have troubles listening to ourselves, and knowing our own signals too, and our body language. I'm 40, and in the last 3 or 4 years, I've really learned a lot about certain things I would do, like get snappy and grouchy and not know why, be moody and not know why, and just be really irritable. And it was anxiety attacks.
Right.
It was stress, and I didn't know that was a symptom of an anxiety attack. And so you keep on learning about yourself, and you're going to keep on learning about your dogs, and so you have to recognize, well, they can have an anxiety attack and not have an external trigger. It could be a blood sugar drop of theirs. It could be lack of sleep. It could be all kinds of things. A thought process in their heads. Who knows? We can't ask them. They're dogs.
Yeah.
All we know is that they must have some kind of internal thought process, and they might remember something or a smell because they have such a strong sense of smell. A smell could bring up a memory and bring up stress and anxiety and have them have an anxiety attack seemingly to us out of nowhere.
All right. Well, going in with the anxiety angle with this and whatnot, what are some physical signs that you might see a dog exhibit that may give an indicator that he might be over anxious or on the verge of an anxiety attack? Something along those lines.
Those can be very subtle and easily misinterpreted as other things. I'm not sure if I can really answer that in a generic sense, but typically it's panting when you don't. There's no reason for the dog to be panting, really. Like, it's cool enough out. I have dogs in my van that it could be 10 degrees outside and it could be 40 in the van, and they'll be panting like it's 90. Because the anxiety it causes vasodilation and increased blood flow, and which increases core temp, and it can make them feel really hot when they're not actually hot, externally speaking. So excessive panting seemingly for no reason. But once again, that could be a symptom of medical issues and other things too, but in an otherwise seemingly healthy dog.
Maybe not so much in a general way, but what are some things that you've seen?
You can see anxiety in the eyes of a dog. I know general advice is don't look a dog in the eye, but good advice really, if you know that dog and you live with that dog and it's your dog, look it in the eye. Eye contact releases oxytocin in dogs by 110% or more from baseline, just from studies being shown. 30 seconds of eye contact with the dog can bond you and that dog very, very strongly in a very short amount of time. And it helps you transfer your information. So the only advice I give about looking your dog in the eye, or any dog in the eye, is be honest with yourself and know yourself about how do I feel? What am I projecting across about the situation or whatever? And be as calm as you can be and not be totally scared. That's the best time to look them in the eye. But you're trying to give a message across first of, I'm calm and confident, I know what's happening, and I know what to do about this, and just rest and trust me. And at the same time, you're looking the dog in the eye to get information about how nervous they are, what they're darting their eyes at, what they're worried about, and so you're getting information about that dog, and the dog knows it. So in a trusting system, a trusting relationship, you should be able to be open and vulnerable about your feelings. And when someone that's strong and that's your leader listens to you and knows and understands what you're feeling, and it doesn't destabilize them, and it helps mobilize them, and they understand, and they let you have those feelings, and they help you understand what to do about them, that's real strength, and that really helps reduce anxiety, is when they're listened to, they're understood, and they're guided, and patiently, and no matter how long it takes. That's what really, really helps with anxiety with anyone, but with dogs especially.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Part of listening is also communication back.
Well, like you said, be honest with the dog. The dog's never going to lie to you.
Yeah, and you can't lie to them about your feelings. They'll know. You can't say, I'm not scared, dog, and you're about to pee yourself. For one thing, it breeds distrust for the very opposite reason why I just described what breeds trust. When you're honest and open, and you listen, you understand, and you accept what they're feeling, and you allow them to have those feelings, it's the same thing as, I won't allow myself to have these feelings, and I'm going to use energy to block them off and lie to you and have put on a show that makes you vulnerable and weak because you're losing energy, wasting energy into fighting that.
I mean, it just seems like a lot of effort to put into just to fool your dog and whatnot.
You sacrifice so much of your brain power, and you're focusing so much on pretending you're not afraid rather than understanding what you're afraid of. Because what defeats fear is knowledge, is understanding. If you have a plan, you know what's going on, you know why you're afraid, and you accept that you have a reason to be afraid. Now you're not wasting strength, and you're not wasting time pretending, and make yourself vulnerable to what you're afraid of. You confront it and you deal with it as appropriately as possible and patiently as possible. Literally, when I'm on a consultation, I'm working with a dog and I'm listening to them, it is second by second, microsecond by microsecond testing and checking on that dog and how they're taking my message and who I am, and constantly adjusting it second by second by
I was
second
gonna
by
say
second by
when
second.
you have that, do you got to make little subtle adjustments and whatnot because it can't be too
Yeah.
strong one way or the
Yeah,
other.
because I don't come in with a cookie cutter and be like, this is what I do with dogs when they have this problem. I know what I might be getting into based on what the clients told me, but I'm always open minded to accept whatever actually is true.
Right.
So I keep in mind what I was told just in case to preemptively defend myself in a non-offensive way against what might happen, like a bite risk or something like that.
Right.
But I'm not going to go in there assuming I'm gonna be bit, or assuming the client's right that it's so bad. And almost all the time, it's nowhere near as bad as what the description seemed to sound like. I know some people would rather go into this work not knowing anything about the situation, and I think that's a cheat.
I mean,
It's unwise and it's a cheat. I'd rather know what might happen, be ready for it, but I have the capability of accepting what's really going to happen and not try to create or accidentally create what I think is going to happen.
yeah, honestly, I don't think it would be a good idea to go into really any kind of work without some kind of plan or knowledge on something. I mean, even if
it's
you're going into
rudimentary.
work doing a big project, it's good to know a little bit about, well, what am I doing this project on?
Mhm.
Not just, you know what? We're just going to wing it. Like,
Wang it.
it may work for some people, but personally, I don't. I got to have at least some knowledge of what I'm working with
Yeah,
here.
it's a fine balance between relying on your instincts and relying on your experience and having a plan, but also the plan is non-rigid. It's point to point to point, and how you get between those points, you allow yourself the flexibility to adjust and even change points. So where I thought I was going to this point, the dog tells me, well, this is what's actually going on. Because sometimes people, the clients themselves, are assuming the dog is this, so they're going to do this and this and this and this and this, and they're predicting that dog's behavior is actually influencing that dog's behavior and aiming it to a place they actually don't want the dog to go. So it's like dowsing rods. Like everyone thinks that they're
wow.
being pulled around between, but it's actually you yourself. You're guiding those dowsing rods, but you think you're following the dowsing rods. It's because you're micro hand movements and gravity and angles. So it's understanding causality versus correlation. That's a whole nother. That could be a whole episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like
that's
going
that's
way
very
out
hard
there.
for some people to understand the difference. Correlation means that something is co-related. It's could be directly part of a cause, totally the cause, or not the cause at all of something, say, asymptomatic that you're looking at. So it means that there's a association, and how loose or tight it is needs to be further investigated. Causation means that this behavior or action is the direct cause of this asymptomatic issue you're investigating. So they can get a little loose. It's always usually better to assume what you're looking at is a correlation than a causation, and then kind of see what it is from there and do some tests. But yeah, so the client winds up being a correlated, it wasn't a symptom, but a factor, rather than being a passive observer, which is something that's not necessarily a real thing. Just the act of observation changes behavior of things.
Okay.
That's been proven even in physics. The observation of a particle changes the particle's behavior. But we won't get into that either. That's way beyond my expertise. But so if a particle behaves differently because of observation for various reasons, a dog, just your observation, the act of observing, makes it's a big factor. And what you observe with your energy, your attitude. So, are you observing with fear and worry and concern? Are you observing knowing that you have reason to be afraid, but you're just letting it play out and looking at moment by moment where you could interject if there's a problem, but you're otherwise confident and observing and waiting for the dog to tell you what's actually happening? Okay. That takes a lot of confidence and some risk. That's why muzzles are important sometimes, so you can be able to have a safety net when you are experimenting with, well, where is this actually going to head? Where have I been a factor in changing my dog's behavior? What's the pure actions this dog's going to take in the situation without me being worried and observing worried and and being just hair trigger ready to jump on the dog. And the muzzle will help with that in some situations, or physical barrier, or both, or a long leash so you can kind of let them out, and then you can, depending on your reflexes, or all the above.
Different situations require different tactics.
Yeah, and the more tools you have, the more power you have, and that can help an observer or a handler or a client act in a more neutral way and observing way, because they know they have a plan, they have a tool, they know how it works, they have a plan of when to use it. So now they let's see what the dog tells us. Let's see what actually will happen here. So instead of me putting tension on the dog because I can't risk it getting too close to this other dog because it might react, and that in of itself is actually making the dog react when it was already teeter-tottering between play and fight, and you put weight on, oh, I'm scared and nervous, I want you to retreat from this dog, and it puts weight towards fight. You can actually just wait it out and see. And sometimes the dog that dog is interacting with is going to put weight one way or the other based on how they behave. But I'd rather see how that dog, what it says to my dog, and how that changes what direction my dog chooses to go, than me be a factor in preemptively, fearfully pulling them back, or being scared and triggering a problem that didn't have to be there, and stealing an opportunity from my dog to learn to put weight of its own on its choices, and learning about the dog rather than just itself. And me influencing it. So a lot of situations are like that. That's part of listening to your dog too, is giving yourself and your dog the ability to experiment and to be listened to, mutually listened to.
All the more reason to be honest with your dogs and people too. You should really be honest with people too.
Definitely.
So when you first go on a case and whatnot, let's say that you've already spoken with the people and whatnot, you're going to observe the dog at this point. And is there anything that you look for first and foremost when you're trying to gauge what this dog is trying to tell you? I mean, is there like one particular thing or a couple different ones? Like what's your process of trying to interpret what they're saying?
The first step to listening is to reduce as much of your own background noise as possible. So mental discipline of clearing your mind of predisposed ideas, and keeping your experiences in the back of your mind to help guide you in case something happens, but not bringing those experiences into reality, negative or positive. Keeping that balance, the open mind of keeping ideas in there, but keeping your observation clear, and just feel the tension, feel your emotions. Your own emotions will react quicker than your brain can process what the body language of the dog is saying to you. And then your brain has to come in real quick and not let your emotions run away with your choices, and let your rational mind take over if something's dangerous, or you think something's dangerous. And you can't go into fight or flight, like just bow to it. So you're going to go into fight or flight, but you don't
really
need to bow to it.
You really got to be like mentally flexible.
In some situations, yeah.
Yeah, there ain't no way in hell I'd be able to do any of that, because my mind is always just going a mile a minute. I can't.
Well, my mind's going a mile a minute, but I can change tracks, like leave other tracks in the background, kind of.
Okay, but I'm saying, like, while you're going a mile a minute and you're thinking back to other things that might be able to help this particular
I think my mind's
experience,
processing a mile a minute more than it's thinking about its own things a mile a minute.
My mind would be more like, okay, let me do that, and then I'm thinking about a meal that I had like 5 days ago and how amazing it was, and I can't put that out of my mind, and then it goes into some weird song I heard on YouTube just recently, and then next thing I know, I'm missing an arm and the dog isn't hungry anymore. That would be me. So mental flexibility and balance sounds very important.
I don't remember if we've had a lot of failed recordings. So I don't remember if it's one of those failed recordings or if it's an episode that we released or about to release. But I mentioned something about that you have to do this as a job, you have to be born with the right personality and core skill set, like a raw talent. To do it properly. I was born with where I didn't have all the testosterone that washed through my brain at a certain stage, like a lot of males do, and I didn't have as much separation between my two lobes of my right side and my left side. Okay. So I've near full connection between the two. Okay. So I can process things differently, and I can be very analytical and also be very sensitive and emotional simultaneously, and it gets very confusing out there sometimes because of that. And it's almost like multiple personality syndrome.
Oh, I can
Like,
believe that with you.
I can have 2 or 3 genuine opinions about any situation, and I have to use my rational mind and engage it even more to try to figure out, well, what are the positives and negatives, or what are the benefits and non-benefits of each of these ways I can interpret and feel and react to whatever the stimulus of the situation is. That's sometimes why I kind of buffer. Like, I get confronted with something and it'll take me a few seconds. And Trisha will like want an answer. My wife will want an answer sometimes about something, and I have to like sift through my 3 opinions and see what the validity of any of them are, and then make a choice
And so
before I
basically,
even answer her.
well, that just sounds like any guy in any marriage. You want to sort through the solutions and then pick the one that you know your wife is okay with. And
Well, she's asking me like how I feel about something or what I want to eat, and not necessarily like she's trying to trap me in a fight or something.
right.
But yeah, it's just there's just always stuff going on in there. I've had to learn discipline about my emotions and thoughts. Otherwise, it'd be chaos.
So you have your mind disciplined, and you're observing what's going on.
A lot of it's from experience.
Yeah. So what's the next move that you do with this?
So when you listen, it's not good enough to just know what's going on. It's also you have to know how to respond, and sometimes non-response is your best choice. Where it's like, yeah, I saw that, but I'm just gonna keep being me. Go over and do this thing. Where it allows the dog to let it go too. If you don't think you're in a direct threat, or no dog's in direct threat, sometimes it's better just like, I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that. And
so would you say it's okay to ignore the issue then?
I don't consider that genuinely ignoring.
Right.
Ignoring would be to put it out of your mind completely and like pretend it didn't happen, but like totally pretend it didn't happen. You should keep in mind that, yeah, that dog was about to bite me, and only because I was just like, whatever, that dog didn't bite me. Because when a dog threatens to bite, it's not out of malice or hatred. It's out of some form of fear, or corrective behavior. So if your dog wants to bite you because it wants to correct you for something, maybe you should quit doing what it wants to correct you for. And then you completely get rid of the idea, the reason to bite you. So when I'm visiting and I'm listening to a dog and I move towards it and it tells me, hey, no, I don't trust that, I don't like that, then my thought process is, well, I'm not here. My message isn't to scare you and to threaten you and make you unsure. I want to represent being trustworthy and listening to you. So I will listen to you right now and act a trustworthy way and just back off. Just stop. Sometimes backing off will encourage the dog to come after you, depending on how intense they are. But if you just pause and let them cool down, and then you just turn and give a little bit of, even if it's an inch of space, you give the message of, well, I'm not running from you. I'm not scared of you enough to run from you, but I'm also not wanting to trigger this in you. I'm not here to reinforce or represent fear or anxiety, so I'll just pause, wait for that to die down, and I'll just move back to a comfortable position, and you kind of start with those kind of things. So whatever you want from the dog, you give to them first. So if I'm coming in listening, I want them to listen to me, so I'm going to listen to them. I'm just going to be open-minded. Just let them show me what they do or don't like. I'll maybe test a few things, like touch them if I think I can, or in certain ways. And if they come up to me to test me and look at me, and I'll actually underhandedly, not over top, but I'll touch their nose gently or brush their mouth. So I'll touch the very part that they could hurt me with, and show them that high level of trust. And just, hey, I trust you enough. You don't trust me, but I'll show you I trust you. And that shows you can trust me.
Have you ever had that backfire on a job at all?
No, but you have to be careful when you do that. It's usually a little bit into the, like, few minutes in, where I've been able to gently brush against them, and they're being very curious. So when they're curious to come up to you and, hey, can I scare you? And you show them, well, it may startle me, but it doesn't scare me, which is two different things.
Right, yeah.
And you show them, well, no, you can't really scare me. You can startle me, but you can't really scare me, because I'm not here in competition with you. I'm not here to be afraid of you. I'm not here to make you afraid of me. I'm just here to be here and to connect with you and to understand you and to respect what you feel. Let you feel what you feel. Respect it. And then maybe, if you allow me to, I'll show you a better way. What to do with this fear, with this anxiety, what you're safe to do with me as the visitor. Maybe not anyone else, but with me as a visitor, you can show you're scared. You can growl at me. You can even nip at me. And I'll be like, yeah, that's just you telling me that I did something you didn't like. And it's usually pretty easily avoidable. Like, don't corner you. Don't hover, don't bend over you, don't stare at you too long.
Seems kind of obvious for
Yeah,
really a lot of different situations.
The dogs will tell you that's triggering me and make me upset. Now, on rare occasions, if a dog has been so used to being disrespected and ignored and not listened to, that they skip a lot of those little steps of telling you, hey, that's too much or that's too far. And those dogs are more dangerous to deal with because they're so practiced at just jumping to the end. Like, everyone always hurts me, scares me, so I'm just going to go right to being more intense or biting even.
Have you had a lot of those in your time
Not a
at
ton.
all? Or...
That takes a dog that's lived a life that's twisted its perception very thoroughly through a large sampling size of individuals that have responded negatively to them. And it'll take a large sampling size of people that allow them to express that and not respond negatively again.
So it's something you've seen, but it's not a very common one that at least that you've encountered.
It's not. It's almost a behavior that has to be intentionally created, or just a perfect storm of disasters to make it on accident. But those are dogs that have been intentionally assaulted by people. It's their entire life, either through quote training to protect a drug house or property, or just people being bad, being cruel. Because dogs can't dial 911, they can't call the police, and they'll always forgive. So they'll always be there to be abused again, and up until they break. And it takes a lot to break a dog, and it doesn't take that much to heal them, because they always want to have hope. They always want to believe in people, and people take advantage of that. I think we talked about that literally in the last episode about being taken advantage of, being willing to be taken advantage of.
We certainly did.
And that's part of leadership. But yeah, listening. You should always listen to your dog, because they're pretty much always right in some way, shape, or form. They may not be right in what they say to do about a situation or their feelings, but they're seeing something probably you're not if you're confused. And that's why I bring Kobun along, my partner, my dog assistant. He's what I call my dog therapy dog, because I'll bring him along even though I'm experienced enough to probably see what's going on with the dog, but I don't have to assume as much. It's a good extra test to have that Kobun second opinion, and how he responds to the dog will either confirm or deny some of my suspicions about that dog's intentions or attitude.
So sometimes he can kind of pick up on things that maybe you might miss, or maybe you didn't pick up right away.
Or that it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. And I'm not sure exactly what the trigger is or what the motivation of that dog is. I have a few options, few ideas.
Okay.
And Kobun will come in, and I'll see if Kobun sees what I see, and then how he responds to it, since he's a dog and very experienced like me. He will give me more of an indicator of what's really going on, or confirm what's going on, and then it'll let me have a focused idea of where we should head.
Well, I think it also helps that you've had him for some time. I mean, he's your personal dog, so if you don't know what he's saying, who does? So I think that's really beneficial. Now, do you take him to every one of them, or do you only take him to like certain cases that you feel like you might need?
I'll take them to ones where the people say, yeah, I think it'd be helpful to have a dog come along with. Or cases I know they're very reactive, and the people, I usually ask the people, do you feel comfortable if I bring my own dog who's trained, who's, experienced in dealing with these kind of issues with reactivity, or aggression, or whatever. I usually just call it reactivity if I haven't observed, because it's just a good general term.
That makes sense.
I've only met maybe 3 dogs I would label aggressive, like as a personality trait, because a lot of dogs have aggressive acts. Doesn't make you aggressive. Just because you have aggressive actions in situations you think it's appropriate doesn't make you a wholly aggressive person or dog. But when a dog I label aggressive, like as a personality trait, it's because of, like I just mentioned, where their world's so twisted that they know beyond almost any shadow of a doubt that every person or animal that they encounter hurts them and will hurt them. And so they don't give warning, uh, not much, if any. They just target and they go to destroy it. Not much growling, not much barking, just go straight. And how intense they are, they're just there to kill and destroy because they think they have to protect their own lives. And that fortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, is extremely rare.
That's good at least.
Yeah, but the problem is those kind of dogs are hard to rehab because you have to first get them to be less reactive in general, and then you have to start showing them how much is really they're causing aggression in other dogs, and that's a big hump. Once you get that across to them, then you have to show them how they don't have to trigger and how not to trigger in every situation the other dog, and you have to pick the right other dogs around so you know that they're not the other dog isn't going to receive and take the trigger and the bait and react negatively. That's where Coben comes in, where he's the first dog that no matter how much that dog gets in Coben's face or challenges Coben or reacts aggressively, Coben may yell back and tell him to chill out or play instead, but he'll always switch over to just like, I'm just going to ignore you. You can come up and sniff me, and I'll just like, whatever, I'm just Coben.
Wow.
I'll make myself smaller if I think I'm towering over you. I'll crawl on the ground and try to be smaller and make you feel less threatened.
I mean, he sounds like a really good assistant. Honestly.
He's very good. He trusts me.
And that's
it's
something
a lot of
I didn't even know that
and
you
trust.
actually took him out on jobs and whatnot.
I've taken him to jobs that there's a probability he could get bit. You know, that's his job. But of course, I muzzle the dogs usually to prevent that. Coben knows I take every step. I don't put him in a situation where he's guaranteed to get hurt. It's not likely for him to get hurt, and if he does, I come and deal with it immediately. He doesn't have to worry about defending himself, so he gets to be himself, and he gets to trust me, and he gets to trust himself and trust his instincts, and have that clear mind that I can enforce on myself that dogs can't just do for themselves. Okay. So so when dogs challenge him, like come into his face, he won't unhealthy avoid like, oh shit, you know.
Right.
But he will healthy avoid. Nope, not here to challenge you. I'm just gonna be.
I just imagine him like rich people, like turning their nose.
That's kind of what it is. Yeah. So the dog's like, "Hey, challenge me. Look me in the eye." And Coben's like, "No, I'm not here to do that." Just very calmly, and he waits for me to come in and deal with it, and then he wags his tail, and he'll come up and poke me, and they'll walk off because dogs will poke out of. It's amazing. Just one touch with their nose will convey how they're feeling to you, and they'll feel how you're feeling about that.
Okay.
All through one touch. And it's a love to you, and it's feeling from you. Is that
one of their common things that they express is through the nose?
Yeah, a lot of dogs will. Sometimes it's a paw, but usually it's a side touch with the nose. A lot of people, my clients will be like, "Well, is my dog drunk? What's going on?" Like we'll be on a walk.
Well, I don't know. Did you give him any hooch for the pooch this morning? Like,
well, sometimes it's a shoulder check, sometimes it's a paw, sometimes it's a butt bump, sometimes it's a nose bump.
Okay.
But it's just a way to passively quick touch, and it's a quick touch of the person they love to check in. How are you feeling about what's going on? Are you proud of me? And then I'm happy, and I want you to feel that all through a single touch, and like through the butt, the shoulder, the butt. And I'll have to tell clients, well, they're checking in on you and telling you that they feel great. They want to feel your energy and how you feel about what's going on. They want to share that. They want that connectivity. They need to be listened to, and they love to listen to you, especially when they get used to that being always a good thing. That when mom and dad say something, whether it's verbal or through touch or just through a smile, their body language, they want to absorb that information. They want to hang on every word, so to speak. And so I have to tell them, well, they're cutting you off to tell you something, to touch you and to connect with you. They don't need to like totally ram you like that. You can tell them to slow down. Or when you can observe your dog through the side of your vision, and as they come up, you can put your hand out for them to touch or poke, and you can poke and touch them preemptively so they don't cut you off, and they'll really appreciate that.
All right, so say we do a little bit of a lightning round here, in my opinion. So I'm gonna tell you things that I've observed the dog do, and what I think it's meant, and you can tell me how totally, absolutely wrong I am, or right. Who knows? Maybe I'm a savant. So
maybe you're just a person with a brain.
You bring it. Well, I wouldn't say that. Come on.
People have brains.
Don't give me that much credit.
I always give my clients that.
So I know you've talked about the nose thing, so I'll start with that. It's like every time I've ever experienced a dog growing up, like, nudging me with the nose. Every time I've seen that, it's usually like, I want attention or I want food. Like, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
so.
the dog may have done that once, and they see they got that attention, and then now they're conditioned to do it that way, and that's okay too. They should be able to tell you when they're hungry.
I've seen dogs pawing, like, and that usually means like, again, attention, like, come on, love me, I'm right here, and whatnot. One that I think is pretty obvious is, when they rub up against your hands and whatnot, it's kind of like, pet me, give me scritches,
Mm-hmm.
We had a thing my dad showed me. It was like, if you cup a dog's ear and you rub it a certain way and then move your hand away, like, they immediately just like go right back to it and whatnot. I mean, could that mean anything different than what I'm saying? Like, the paw thing, is it always going to mean I want attention, love me?
Well,
Or could it mean something else, like, something's wrong, hey, what's...
well, that's the thing, that you have to take it in context. So, does the dog look worried or concerned? How frantic is the pawing? He could be trying to tell you he has to go potty. He could be saying there's something scary outside. He could just simply saying, "I'm very anxious. I don't know why, but can you do something about it?"
I just want to make sure that if I ever get a dog again and he's pawing at me, he's not trying to tell me little Timmy's stuck down the well and I let a child die. I need to know.
No, like I said, you have to take it in context. Like, is it near dinner time? And really, you should train the dog to tell you, like, you need to tell the dog what that means to you. By when they do that, you respond in a certain way. Like, to me, for instance, if it's a puppy and they're gonna paw me and they're gonna bother me, I'm gonna immediately be like, "Oh, you gotta go potty," and then I go through the ritual of the potty, whatever that is. Whether we just go get the leash and we take him to the door, or have him ring a bell at the door too.
See, I'm not clever enough to do all that, because for me it was always like, "Hey, leave me alone. I don't want to give you any attention right now," kind of thing. And it's
you're not listening to your dog.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and sometimes if they are just demanding a lot of attention, you don't have time for the attention. You should really redirect them to either go lay down, or put him in a crate so that he can rest, or give him a chew.
But that's what I mean. It's like, growing up, I never really thought to ask the other questions.
So it gets back to me saying, well, condition them. It was
almost always just, you want attention. I didn't really think about, like, oh, do you got to go to the bathroom? Oh, are you hungry? Oh, you know.
They're living beings with needs and thoughts and feelings. So yeah, you have to ask yourself, well, what's the probability? What is in the context? And so Coben, when he's upstairs sleeping, he usually doesn't bother me. But if he's whining and he's sitting in his bed, he wants me to cover him up,
right?
Because he's cold. And if I cover him up and he gets up and uncovers himself and continues the whine, then he's telling me he has to go potty or that he needs water. So if he has water, then he needs a potty. If he doesn't have water, he may still need to potty, but he may also just need water.
Right.
So yeah, you have to go through you have to figure out the context, because it's very high context language. So simply pawing doesn't mean anything. Just like simply wagging a tail doesn't mean anything.
Wagging a tail always meant, oh, you're happy, Yeah. But like you said, it could also be a sign of, I'm warning you, I'm not right now.
It could be a sign of readiness.
And that's something that I never would have even thought about. And for the record, for everybody out there, when I was like, pawing, leave me alone and all that, I didn't ignore dogs all the damn time, all right? So don't think me as a terrible person. It's just
most people do that stuff. It's okay.
Yeah, but
dogs forgive.
I was a gamer growing up, so it's like,
you.
You're pawing at me and I'm going like this, like, no.
I'm in the middle of this level, right?
It's like, I don't hate on dogs or anything like that, so
no, you wouldn't be part of this podcast if that were the case. No,
I mean, that's probably true.
Yeah, it's just, you just have to think about the context, and you have to trial and error.
A lot more
A
lot more goes into it than just looking at what they're doing physically. You really got to kind of
that makes it mean more
troubleshoot it. And
it's because it's not easy and it's not passive. It's not quick. You have to really think in depth about your dog and what he or she really typically needs around that time of day or in general, and like Coben won't bother me unless he really needs something.
So would you say, like, having
even if
a dog
he really needs the hot dog that's in my hand?
I was gonna say, so would you say having a dog on like a kind of schedule helps you communicate better with them
Well,
then?
yeah, because communication is always both directions. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have a schedule and they know what to predict and what's going to happen during certain parts of the day and in what order, that's you communicating to them that you're going to meet their needs emotionally, physically, and so on, and that it'll happen in this order, and then you can always predict it and trust it. And that's part of communication: is prediction, trust, understanding, not lack of confusion,
Mm-hmm.
as much as possible. So yeah, I think that's a good way to communicate something very
I
important
was
to
gonna
your
say,
dogs.
because I do know that you and Trish follow a very specific schedule with
Hmm.
all your dogs,
Yeah,
and I
and some
see
dogs
how
that can
they.
make them drive them crazy. Like if it's too rigid and then anything changes because life changes,
Mm-hmm.
it's certain individuals that can really throw them through a loop.
Yeah.
So I've had some dogs that I keep a fairly strict schedule, but I'll flex it even if I don't need to on purpose, like an hour one way or the other, and I'll change up the order of things. So they learn, well, certain things, these things will happen every day, but they won't always happen in the same order. They won't always happen exactly the same time. But you will always be fed. You will always be walked. You will always be given affection. We will
Mm-hmm.
always go to bed. Those kind of things. But they may happen in different orders and different times because my
Okay.
life is chaotic, and you are a personality that if you get way too used to something and that you're so disruptive of change
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to keep constant change, but also keep consistency and some weird mix in the middle, and that
I
actually
was going to
reduces
ask you about
anxiety in
that
some
because I
dogs.
know with your job, since
Hmm.
sometimes you're traveling across state lines and everything
Yeah,
else, like
yeah. Time
how do you
changes.
manage that kind of schedule with a dog?
Well, yeah. So if
For
I'm
that.
traveling out west, you're uh, you're gaining hours as you're going out west. So if you're really clocking in hours and you're driving out and you wind up in Chicago from Dayton, and you're gonna sleep or take a rest after that, I usually will start if I know I'm going to be all the way out to California, where we're going to be 3 hours behind, or ahead,
I
ahead,
think it's
3 hours
I
ahead.
think it's is it 3 or
Anyways,
5?
so whichever direction it goes. So let's just say it's 3 hours ahead of us, and I feed at 8 o'clock our time. That means that dog would be fed, um, seven
Like
o'clock, 6 o'clock their time.
you said what time our time?
8.
So it would be like 8, so it'd be like
So
5 o'clock
yeah.
roundabout.
So I will usually, as I'm traveling out, start making the feeding a little later and a little later and a little later, like an hour or 30 minutes. So
Okay.
that by the time you get out there, it's closer to like 7 o'clock p.m. would be about what they would be used to on that time zone. So you just adjust for it if you think it'd be a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a lot of times, Porco, when he travels with me, I'm just chugging along so much that he gets fed when he gets fed. Like when we're about to go to bed, that's when you get fed, even if it's midnight. Sorry, and he'll get snacks. I always share little snips of anything he can eat that
Mm-hmm.
I'm eating, so I spoil him.
So let me ask you that because
Not
that's gonna
small
divert
bits.
a little off the communication conversation here, but given as how when we recorded this, Thanksgiving's right around the corner.
Hmm.
Real quick, what's a do and don't for feeding your dog? What's the worst and the best?
What you mean? What's
Like,
safe and what isn't safe?
yeah, kind of
Well,
like that.
I'm
Like, people are gonna be giving leftovers to
I'm
their
not a
dogs. So
vet
like I
or
said,
chemist. There's charts online you can find
okay,
and talk to your vet.
is chocolate really that bad for a dog?
Oh yeah, chocolate is toxic, but toxicity is usually based on dose.
Mm-hmm.
So and doses with chocolate is based on how much cocoa or cacao is in it. Um, I've known dogs that have eaten cocoa covered or coconut mat from a garden and died because
Oh,
it shuts their liver down. Um, yeah,
is
because
it,
cocoa is really toxic.
okay,
Like
is
that's
there
that's the so
any kind of
milk
meat?
chocolate they can tolerate up to a certain amount based on their body weight. Tolerate means like either you won't notice any difference, but the dog may have a little upset tummy and it just gets over it,
Mm-hmm.
or tolerates it all the way up until they get explosive diarrhea and vomiting out
Ooh.
both ends, which depending on your dog's age and size could be life threatening
Mm-hmm.
because dehydration is obviously life threatening. Um, and gastroenteritis can occur and other things like that. And mild liver damage could occur, but livers, once again, based on age, can regenerate to a certain extent. But of course, you don't want to be betting on your health or your dog's health, the
Yeah.
regeneration of their liver. But yeah, it's that's why it's good just to avoid totally. I've been known to give Kobun an M&M or two
Mm-hmm.
because it's milk chocolate, and it shouldn't be nowhere near toxic enough to give them a real issue. But obviously, I don't make a habit of that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the darker the chocolate, the stronger, the higher dose, the more dangerous it is.
what about throwing some stuffing or mashed potatoes on their plate and whatnot?
I
Like
don't
give them
know. It
anything
depends
like
on what
that?
you put in there. So xylitol is in a lot of things. It's a natural sweetener. It's actually very healthy for humans, but
Mhm.
it's absolutely liver death for dogs.
Oof.
In low doses, it once again it's a toxicity load. So
Mhm.
in low doses, it could be the liver can filter it out and they can be safe. So I used to worry about dogs grabbing because sugar-free gum, a lot of it has xylitol, and I worry about my dogs grabbing used gum off the pavement and then dying. But my doctor assures me that xylitol is very water soluble, so if it's been chewed for almost any length of time, it should have a much lower dose of xylitol. Obviously, something's not ideal, but
Mhm.
nothing to freak out
And
about. Xylitol's in drywall at times, so I've had dogs eat drywall and be in danger. Not my dogs,
I mean,
but
I
dogs
just
I've heard
imagine
of.
a dog eating drywall in general is not a good
Yeah,
idea. I mean, it
it
doesn't even
happens though.
matter
Believe
what's
me.
in it.
So I mean, like I said, I'm not a vet chemist or anything. I can't really give an answer to that. But something as a behavior expert, I can tell you, uh, when you're feeding your dog high value food, they may behave differently than their kibble or other things, and they may become possessive or even aggressive about that food towards other dogs or even small
Mm.
like children or people. Even if the dog's never shown that behavior before, if they've never had something so delicious and high caloric value as turkey and gravy and potatoes. Um, so they may get really weird about it. So just be a little extra cautious. Feed them their treats in their bowl, preferably maybe even in a crate, especially if you have guests over. So if they do have any reactivity, everyone's safe. It might just startle people, and you'd be like, yeah, my dog's just being a dork. He can't, he doesn't know how to handle his turkey. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, just watch out for behavior changes based on high value food. Can if you don't know that dog very well, or
Mhm.
that dog's never in your knowledge experienced that before, just watch out.
Yeah.
Same thing around Christmas. So when you're giving gifts to your dogs, I've had a few clients call me out because their dogs got along totally, seemingly swimmingly, and totally fine. And then they had them get together for gifts, and they had all the dogs out with the gifts, and all the dogs are excited, and they're wondering what's in that paper, and all the crunchy noises, and all the toys out, and this dog has this toy,
Mhm.
and that dog has that toy. Now you're gonna get something, and a fight started because all the extra energy and excitement and the unknown and the unobtainability of the next gift, and it started a problem, and I had to come in and help them heal that because it the dogs broke each other's trust because they trusted each other, and
Right.
now a fight happened that they didn't even understand why it just happened,
Well,
but it did.
that just sounds like kids at Christmas time
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
though.
It
So
when you stop and think about it, like those clients even look back, like just looking back on it, we think, well, duh, of course there was a fight that started, but they took for granted. This is part of not listening to is assuming and
mm,
taking for granted a relationship or others' relationships, like the dogs' relationships, just because they fully trusted each other in every situation before, never possessed toys from each other or food. In a high energy situation where there's lots of guests or people, or even if they're not there anymore, if they were there recently and the dogs aren't used to that level of excitement in the last few days, that can linger in stress in the dog. And then now you introduce all this excitement, the unobtainability of the mystery packages and the crunches and the noises and the squeaks of death that some of these
the
toys make.
squeaks of death.
Yeah, that's what squeakers simulate is squeaking and death of screaming animals.
Mhm.
Crunchy plastic water bottles are like ribs crushing, and yeah, crunch, crunch, yeah, of skulls and
Makes
ribs.
it
Dogs
makes
are
so.
predators. They're animals,
mean-
so what it is. So you have to think about now. So they're all excited, and the more excited a dog is, the less rational they are, the more reliant on instincts they are. And so your dog that Trixie or whoever it is taking a back seat, and now it's the dog from 10,000 BC, and this is a cave somewhere, and we're all killing things. And anxieties can rise up, and dogs have subtle anxieties that can become not so subtle all of a sudden, and now they have troubles trusting this other dog that's murdering this thing near them, and they wonder, am I next, or do I need to kill this now too, or am I going to get hurt? What's happening? and they rely on their instincts. The instincts are like, "Doy, I don't know what's happening. This is a house. I'm used to being in a cave, and so here's what you do in a cave."
So when they get that way, and I know you said this even earlier in this particular episode, that sometimes you'll push the ears down, or you'll try to calm them,
which sometimes can trigger them too if you do it too late.
Well, I was gonna ask you, like, is that good? Is that something good to follow through with whenever that kind of thing happens? Is that the best way to talk
if you had
the dog down?
If you had a brain fart and you put your dogs in these situations, which happens, well, judgment called, mistakes. Yeah, get a hold of or calm the dog you think would listen to you the best first. You always seek the easiest route. So whoever's most likely to listen to you, tell them, hey, calm down, come here, or come sit or do something for me, and start slowly taking the dogs one by one out of the situation. If you have a partner you can trust, ask them to get another one. So if you have 3 dogs, one of you gets one calmly, the other gets the other, and you both watch out for if the third wants to pursue or anything weird going on. And just get them out into other rooms and let them detox.
But you still also want to pick the one that you feel you would be able to do that with the easiest.
Yeah, because if you pick the one that's least likely to listen to you, it'll take longer, and the longer that the situation goes on, and the more a dog resists leadership, the more out of control the other dogs think everything is.
I was just gonna ask you, like, if they see that dog being more defiant, does that communicate to the others, like, oh, we don't need to really pay attention to what they're doing.
I think it's more like they see the leadership, which is the humans, come in to deal with something, and the people are pensive or a little bit tense, and because they know they all have already been a little tense. And now this dog is not listening to them, and so the control is coming in to bring control, and it's not bringing control, so everything's more out of control.
Okay.
You see? And sometimes the dog doesn't listen to you, is the one that can't listen to you. This is the one that's the most intense or instinctual. And so you can sometimes, as you're trying to suppress that, it'll rise up and meet you and compete back. So you can sometimes inadvertently increase the energy of the whole pack because you're going after the more stubborn dog. So it's just better for time and for swiftness and for calmness, as you want to shave it down, step it down. So cheat. Calmest dog first, most obedient dog first. Come out here. That just that one dog being calmer and being taken out of the situation now reduces the other 2, and now you can come in and get the next calmer dog, which now reduces that dog. And all you have to do is one-on-one with the most difficult dog to get through to. Or if you can't get through him at all, you can just leave him there to detox in place while you go calm the other 2 dogs down and come back in when they've become more rational.
So is this something you've kind of learned through trial and error, like going through your
no, I was
self-training?
I was trained this by my mom, and then it logically made sense, and then of course through practice I've refined when and where and what to do. But the best way to deal with it is to avoid it. So if you're gonna like most of the time this is shelter dogs that do this, or dogs that weren't raised together as from puppies. That's a factor. So you raise a dog from a puppy, and you know what the do's and don'ts are, and you know how solid they are in certain situations, and not to some extent. Now, dogs are individuals, and sometimes they'll surprise you,
right?
Especially if you're not an expert and you're not constantly exposed to the dogs and their weirdnesses. But yeah, it's so dogs, especially ones you rescue as adults or from shelters and you didn't raise from puppies, I would recommend taking them in 1 or 2, depending on how confident you are about their relationship, to get their toys. And if you really want to get them really excited, take them out one at a time. That's what we do. And we raise most of our dogs from puppies, but we still take them out one at a time because we think it's more special to them. And we get to not be worried about what they might do to the other dogs or any kind of possible risk of unknown behavior reaction, and just focus on that dog. Here's your toy, and look at what's going on, and you get to play with it, and we get to play with you, and we get to laugh at what you're doing without any worry about how that's influencing the other dogs, whether you're going to run into them or accidentally bite them or try to play with them with the toy too rough and they don't like it. Yeah,
well,
know your dogs.
Yeah, because like you said, every dog's different. Some dogs may react poorly to that, and some may join right in with it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a big lesson about learning is, or not learning, but listening is giving you and the dog the best chance to be really listened to. And so if you're going to give them treats and toys, do it one-on-one. I think that's more fun. You get to listen more to that dog, and they get to tell you how happy they are about the toy and not be distracted too. That's just a better way of doing it. And if you have two dogs that really get along and like to play with toys together and be curious, and they've had a good history of being okay with that, then two dogs at a time. But once you start getting into three dogs, and depending on their personality differences, and
Better to just stick with doing it one at a time. As
there's more benefits and there's no real risks, and it's just safer. It's better.
I mean,
So,
when you put it that way, it
Christmas.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So-
because I give my dog Christmas toys and
Oh, well, I mean,
stockings and wrapped up things.
most fur parents, I would say, probably do.
We're team no kids all the way, so it's doggies. Doggies are our thing.
So, from somebody like me, it still sounds like a very complicated language to learn. But for someone
Yeah,
like
it's a
you,
language.
I was gonna say, but for somebody like you, it's almost seems probably almost second nature.
Yeah, it's just practice, and even for me, I have my doubts and curiosities, and you have to experiment and test and see, because they aren't speaking a very low context, very clear, actual verbal language. They have to use motions and cues and timing and situations and the context of the situation to try to communicate their feelings, and that's why dogs sometimes misunderstand each other too. That's why there's a difference between exposure and socialization.
Okay.
You know, the buzzword of socialization. We can actually have a whole episode on that, but I'll touch on it a little bit now. This is part of listening to your dog, and so exposure and how dogs listen to each other. But exposure is, here dog, here's other dogs, so let's go to the dog park, and here's some random dogs I don't know, or I might know but I don't know very well because I've visited them before or something. But usually it's, I don't know these dogs at all.
Wow.
And well, you're a dog and they're a dog. So you both speak dog, so you should be able to figure it out and get along, and you'll learn things from these dogs. But what you're doing is, here dog, here's a bunch of random dogs. Hopefully you understand each other and there's no misunderstandings, and that you know as a puppy or a young dog how to deal with a misunderstanding. And I'm just gonna stand over here and talk to my friends at this dog park, and it's ignorant.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea. And so they have misunderstandings, and your dog gets bit, and then they're dog aggressive the rest of their life, because that's very common.
I was going to say, the way you put that, where they just kind of introduce the dog and then kind of go out and do off their own
Just
thing, it's
because-
almost like you're just trying to get rid of it so
Yeah.
you could have a social life.
Just because it's a social event or social situation doesn't automatically make it a positive one and a good experience for the dog to learn good habits. It's just as likely the dog to learn bad habits, even if they're not attacking other dogs. They could learn bad, intense humping behaviors, and being too pushy or biting too much to try to start play. And if you're not involved in those conversations to show, hey, that's biting too much, slow down, do this instead.
Right.
Or hey, just calm down, you're getting too intense, stop and come back here and self-regulate, and don't go beyond
No.
a certain level of excitement. That's socialization. That's teaching the dog how to influence the other dogs and how to deal with the conversation and understanding those things. But exposure is, here dog, here's other dogs, good luck, and we hope it all works out.
Yeah. Not
And
paying
socialization
attention
isn't
can be bad.
always a social thing. Sometimes it's just being used to loud noises and just outdoors, like lawnmowers and people yelling and doors slamming and garbage cans being moved. That's socialization too. So that's why I don't really like using the term socialization, because it sounds like it's a misnomer. It misleads and it's overused.
Right.
But you have to listen to your dog and about how they're taking things, and then know if they're responding appropriately, and then how to block that and redirect it either to something appropriate or just take them out of the situation so they can calm down enough to be rational.
Have you ever been on a case, or not even a case, but just like in general, have you ever come across a dog that maybe you've had a hard time personally trying to interpret what they're saying? Not so much in an aspect that like you have Kobun to kind of second everything, but one where like you're observing and you believe what they're saying is one thing, but then it turns out to be something else entirely.
Well, yeah, and I usually communicate to the clients, like, because it's high context. I was like, I'm not 100% sure what this dog is saying right now, so we're gonna have to wait and see where it heads, what's gonna go on, or I'll experiment and test by influencing the direction of what the dog's doing, either through a touch or through redirection or getting their attention, and seeing if I can. And if I can't get their attention, it tells me how fixated or focused they are. and what their intentions might be, and then I take it step by step. So
All
just
right.
like when Coben wakes up and whines, I have to figure out, is he uncovered? Is he cold? Does he need water? Does he have to go potty? And I have to take and prioritize that, listen to what is most likely to what's least likely, and go through it and see and experiment, see what makes him quit whining, because he will when he gets what he needs.
Pardon me.
But we'll have to figure it out. So the same thing with the dog. So you're growling at me. I'm not sure if that's just you telling me, because I don't know this dog. I don't know if it's
Right.
you telling me you're nervous. Is that you telling me I'm about to bite you no matter what you do? Is that just how you greet people? I mean, because I've had that. My
It's
dog comes
like, what's up, dog?
and it's cheesing at you. That's what they call that. Which sometimes dogs can do that and still intend to bite you, but most of the time it's a friendly gesture. But you don't know for sure because the dog's growling and baring his teeth at you. So with a dog that's a cheeser, I always am a little cautious at first until I wait and see where they take it, and how calm they get, how quick, or how they deal with how I approach them, and then I kind of adjust my conversation from that.
Makes sense.
So it's kind of like asking questions, clarifying questions when someone gives you a statement.
Yeah, to get them probing questions.
So if I don't have
everything
Coben
else.
to help fast track to this Coben reacts this way, so I know what this dog intends, I can just test and see. And
So you just kind of test
how
the
I touch
waters
or
out
move or
and
not
whatnot.
move, or
Okay.
what just
I just sometimes I gotta ask these because I mean, again, I see you and I hear the stories and I've seen what people say, and it's almost like this guy literally knows everything. And then when we have these discussions and everything else, it's like it's almost like does he really run into trouble with some of these? Is it always smooth sailing and whatnot?
I run into trouble quite frequently. I mean, that's why I'm out there to deal with this trouble. But it's my job to very rapidly go through the most probable issue that it could be in the right way to respond, usually interpersonally between me and that dog, and to quickly resolve or figure out what's going on, or know when to get the heck out of there and back off and regroup and be like, I think your dog needs muzzled because you don't want him to bite me. I don't want him to bite me. That's when the dog bites a person, that hurts them too. It makes that dog either confirmed into thinking it should bite people, or if it bites me, it knows it may start something with me, and now it can't trust me because even if I act trustworthy and I am trustworthy, the dog thinks it's an act because, well, I bit you. I know you're just trying to make me lower my guard so you can now bite me, because that's how that dog thinks.
And for all the people out there who are into biting and whatnot, we will definitely be covering a full episode on that in the future. So a little foreshadowing for you all.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have a whole episode about that's part of the communication, and it's part of leadership and stuff too. Is interpreting bites, like a bite by any other name. The intensity, the intention, the outcome, the intended outcome or lack thereof, and that really our society treats bites inappropriately. Like, the dog bit, therefore it's bad. It's always bad, and the dog's bad. The dog has no right to bite, no matter what happens, no matter what anyone does to them, and that's just unfair at best. Yeah, so we definitely talk about that, but yeah, just listen. The dog will usually tell you what they don't want you to do, and I think the toughest part is the dog isn't likely to be able to tell you exactly what it does want you to do. And a lot of times the dogs don't know for sure until they see it. So you have to figure it out. But that's our job. We're the ones with the bigger brains and the opposable thumbs. We walk upright. We use tools. It's up to you to meet them most of the way on the communication and language, and show them you're trying. That's really the key too. When you're starting out, listen, clear your mind, and try to figure it out, and be okay with making some mistakes. The dog will be totally fine with you making some mistakes in most cases.
Like you said, they're always forgiving. So.
Yeah, especially once you raise a puppy. I mean, sometimes rehab, it's not so forgiving, but
yeah, given the circumstances.
But that's also understandable.
History,
it's not the dog being mean. It's just he's had some experiences or lack thereof, and it's just you just have to listen and just try to figure it out, and the dog will meet you halfway. And also, like we were saying earlier, when you don't know what a certain action means, tell them what it means. When you paw me, you may be asking for attention. You may want me to pet you, but I want to from now on, when you paw me like that, or put your head on my lap, or do something to bug me, I'm going to
Yeah.
show you what I'll do when you do that. I'm going to get up, we're going to go, and we're going to go outside, and I'll take you to go potty. And every time you do that, I'm going to get up and take you to go potty. So if you want attention, you better seek it in a less intense way. But if you're going to be this intense, all I'm going to see it as you need to go potty, and that can help a lot with potty training your puppy and your young dog, because you have to teach them how to tell you. And sometimes it's you learning how they tell you and you reinforce it, and sometimes it's they don't know how to tell you. You show them like, oh, I know it's about time for you to go potty, so I'm going to bring you up to me and use your paw to touch me, and then, oh, let's go potty, and take you out and we go potty. And so you associate, just like with the bells on the door. That's okay too. Oh, you gotta go potty? Come up, ring the bell. Oh, let's go potty, and you go open the door and you take them out to go potty. So you condition them.
And you know, when you explain it like that, it's bizarre because it's like, you know, again, I don't have a pet currently and whatnot,
Too
but
expensive.
I have kids, and you know, it's like raising kids is almost the same exact thing. But when you think about
Communication has to be taught.
when you think about applying that to something else, like for dogs, for example, to me, it's like, yeah, I never really put the association and the similarities together because this whole time I'm sitting here like talking to a dog, like that is something I don't think I could ever do. But then when you explain it like that, it's like, what are you talking about? I do that all the time with my daughter, with my son when he was younger, and
Yeah.
everything else.
And I
it's
think
like,
people that deal with ADHD individuals as well, or autism, learn a lot about nonverbal communication. I prefer to speak with less words and just through eye contact and touch.
as you all have seen, he does a
And
lot of.
Trish gets very frustrated with that 'cause she wants me to use more verb, like my words, and so I have to adjust to that. But the dogs, that's almost purely what they do. So on a consultation, clients will see me give Kobun. Well, they don't see me give him a command. They just see Kobun do certain things or look to me and then go do something. Like walk away or back off or come to me and sit or do things, and they don't hear a word come out of my mouth because everything's through looking at them and looking them through, hey, come over here, or little subtle hand movements, or hey, come here and sit and wait, and back off, it's dangerous. And I'll do the same thing to their dogs, so their dogs will be more obedient to me, and where they're yelling and giving all these cues and commands, and I'll just be like, hey, and I'll give them some hand signals or I touch them and show them what I want, and then I'll give them. When I make them come to me calmly and I have them sit, then I'll tell them, come sit, good job, and give them a reward or affection.
Right.
And so like, it's amazing. I listen to you so well, and you're not really even saying much. You haven't barely even said a word to my dog, and they're more obedient to you. And I was like, your dog is very anxious and nervous, and it's easy to increase their energy. So instead of talking to them so much and increasing their energy and their anxieties, I'm just gonna be very calm and silent. And so that contrasts their anxiety to the point where it's like I'm loud, without having to yell and add to their anxiety. And then they're attracted to me because I'm a black hole for their anxiety. It sucks it in, it drains it from them, and replaces it with calmness and answers. Because all they have to do is look to me and not use their ears so much, but use their eyes and just follow and listen to my touch, which is calming and guiding. And that just sucks the anxiety and fear out of them. It calms their mind, and it's easy and quick for them to understand because it's more dog-like. And so that way I don't have to worry about negative associations with certain cues or commands, because some dogs have had cues or commands used negatively through frustration or anger from people. And I bypass all that and cut to a new communication that is actually old to them, that they're used to.
All right. So let me ask you this. Let's tidy it up with a big red bow here. Not everybody has an entire day to dedicate to it. So for the average person who has a life doing other things, how much time would you say somebody should maybe dedicate themselves to trying to learn how to communicate and read their dog?
Oh, it's something you should do every minute you're with them, just through your everyday average things. It takes a lot of work. It's like a muscle. At first, it's just so hard to lift and to use that skill and that muscle. But you have to start somewhere. So start with little bits, like when they're getting fed, have them look to you in the eyes and sit before their food goes down. And then when they're good at that, you start asking them to wait until you tell them it's okay. and so on, and just you're making opportunities that you already have. You're taking advantage of opportunities every day with things you already have to do with them, like feeding them, bringing them in and out of their kennel, or in and out of the bedroom, or in and out of the house, or in and out of your car, and making those opportunities to have a conversation. That, hey, I have something to say about this. I have rules and a little fun thing for you to do. How about you wait and look to me? And when you're invited, you can come out of that kennel, or out of the bedroom, or out of the house, or out of the car, and vice versa into it. Hey, wait, don't just run into the house. Wait, look to me, because I want to talk to you. I want to connect with you. I want to listen to you, and I want you to listen to me, and we can do this fun cooperative thing. And now when you're obedient, calm, that dog goes into my house.
Okay.
And so every things you do all the time. We're on the walk. I want you to slow down now and start healing when we walk. And when you get good at that, and you start assuming what way we're going to turn, I'm going to mix it up. When you already assume we're going to turn right at this street, we're going to turn left. I'm going to turn around and go back the other way a little bit, and then turn around, come back, and then turn right. So every time the dog starts automatically thinking about things, they're not thinking about you and listening to you. You switch it up so you have something more to say. So they learn, well, I know where we usually go, but I have to take a moment and think about what mom and dad are thinking and feeling, and what they actually are going to say, what to do next. And that's engagement, that's communication.
So really the best starting point is taking something that you would normally do and then turning it into a conversation,
Adding
not having
complications.
it one way.
Yeah, making them have to know that you have something to say, and that it's fun, and it makes you happy, it makes them happy, and it's a little bit of a challenge, and that drains mental energy and reduces anxieties too. And it increases quality of time with your dog, which decreases separation anxiety issues. When they know that the time they have with you is going to be valuable, with connection and communication and listening both ways, and it's going to be fun, it's going to be encouraging, it's going to be more about yes than no, then they're going to want that, they're going to crave that, and they're going to accept it, because those 5 minutes they got to spend with you before work now are filled with more connection, rather than you being busy and stressed and disappearing.
And then that ends up building the trust in them and means they want to communicate more with you, and they may start opening up their own pathways to conversation, and then before you know it, you're running a business.
And vice versa. Give them an opportunity to talk to you as well, and listen about what they want to do. And so when your schedule is usually, I need to get up, get the dog out to go potty and feed him, and then make my coffee, and then I want to go sit and listen to a show, or read a book or something before I leave.
Listen to this podcast, perhaps.
Yeah, listen to podcasts. If the dog suddenly wants to switch it up and just really wants to play, wants to go into the room where the toys are, like Coben does to me in the morning sometimes, give him some time to play. You don't have to spend 5, 10, 20 minutes. 30, 40-second play session that was unplanned, and that your dog just requested of you, and you're like, oh, I know what you want, and I'm listening, and let's play a little bit, can mean so much to that dog, and it really isn't going to take any meaningful time out of your day. The returns you get, this is something you'll hear constantly from me, is that it's just unfair how much more you get in return from your dog than what you put in. You always get back more than you give. And the little bit of time in your mind in your day is a big part of their day.
Yeah,
so it doesn't take much. You are the world to them. So
yeah,
it's only fair to make them a part of your world too, more of a part of your world, because you are their whole world.
I mean, honestly, you've talked about a few things that I've never really thought about or considered, and eventually, because eventually I would love to have a dog again and whatnot. I'm honestly gonna take a bit more of a in-depth approach with this for sure.
Yeah, you can get so much more out of so much more relationship from your dog, just than people think possible. I've had clients that thought they really loved their dogs, and they did, but their capacity to love their dog increased because their capacity to listen and to accept and to understand what they're listening to from their dog increased so much that their relationship with that dog was so much greater than they ever experienced before, through very simple little changes about just listening and trying to figure out what they want, and being unafraid to fail and make a mistake about that what the message might be. And it's because that's how you readjust, it's how you learn, that's how they learn, and they will honor that. They'll honor you for your attempt.
Moral of the story, don't be afraid to be the weirdo that talks to their dog.
Nope. Whether it's be words, touch, all the above, body language, that they're highly in tune and they're very sensitive.
Absolutely.
So take advantage of that. Accept it. Make that part of yourself too. And as much as we can make dogs more a part of ourselves, the better we'll improve humanity.
That got like deep out of nowhere. Like you were up here and then you're just like, now let's take it down.
let's take a knee and let's pray to Dog Almighty.
Dog Almighty.
Well, if anything's worth worship, it's dogs. So praise dog. May dog be with you. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on Facebook or YouTube. Make sure you click on those buttons because we really need that. It'll help with the algorithm and help spread the show. Make our tiny little channel just a little bit bigger thanks to your few little clicks. And please listen to the whole show. Play it in the background somewhere. Ignore us and just run it. Because how long the show is watched is a big part of the algorithm for all of the platforms, including the podcast platforms. But commenting and everything, just interact.
Don't be afraid to say things. If you want to share a story or anything
good,
like that,
bad,
please, absolutely.
I'm here to learn too. I mean, I don't mind conversations with people, and if you have some feedback, whether it's positive or negative, bring it on.
Tell us if we should just blur all this so you don't see it and you can only listen instead. I mean,
beg us to go back to non-video format. We'll be okay with that. But we'll get better at this as we get used to being in front of the camera a bit more, and maybe we'll even get separate cameras so I can actually look at you, Tommy, rather than showing this to the customers.
I mean, my neck's all right, for now, but pretty soon it might be like, I got a carpal tunnel thing going on.
I'm gonna get you a swivel chair.
Swivel.
Okay,
I use swivels for work. This is for play.
But yeah, well, that's pretty much it for today. And you've been listening to the Captain Spish podcast with Captain Spish and
First Mate T.Tommy here as always.
Tommy Dillon. We'll see you next time.
It was unconventional, but it worked.
And I never tell clients, just like I never tell the dogs, not to be scared.
Unfortunately, dogs don't have the ability to just talk it out with you.
See, there's all kinds of different types of bites, but I'll get into that later. What's happened here? How did this start? How can I help you? You reward good behavior and you discourage or redirect bad behavior into good behaviors. Warm talk, anecdotes, stories, get to know me, get to know them.
Yeah.
What you do or don't do with that dog, how you handle that dog, how you think and feel and what you do with your thoughts and feelings around that dog. And it's going to be for the rest of that dog's life.
You can't just unplug the corgi and plug him back in. I'm going to be open and honest about it. And that was like watching art